Okay, ready to do this?
Sure. So I kind of forgot what exactly we're doing. So whatever. Just whatever
Well,
you want to talk about, tell me.
I'll give you a hint. We'll be taking a look at your mod, Galerion's tools.
Okay. Okay.
Sounds good.
I can handle that, I think.
All right, good. Let me bring up the page so that everyone can see it. Here we go. Okay. So, can you tell us, what it's all about?
Certainly. So, Galerion's Tools was the medium through which I decided to provide the Soul Extractor. So, obviously, this is a quest mod.
Mm-hmm.
But the quest was not the point of the mod. The ultimate point of the mod was that I had written this script for this Soul Extractor tool so that we could take enchanted items and de-enchant them or whatever and get the souls back out and put them into soul gems.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it would be really stupid to just place that somewhere. And so I decided that I wanted to make some type of quest, right? And I actually didn't really have any good ideas for it. So what I did was I talked to a few lorebeards and got some ideas for how I could actually tie this item into the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where somebody, I honestly can't remember who, but somebody told me about Galerion the Mystic. So then from that, I learned a little bit about the lore behind him through some quick Googling,
Mm-hmm.
and decided, yeah, this sounds like a great idea. I can make this shoe fit pretty easily. So from there, I did some more talking with other people, and eventually I came up with the basic storyline, which is pretty short either way, of Galerion's tools.
All right.
So that's the background. You want me to keep going, or is that good for you?
I mean, we'll take a look at it, and I'm sure there's going to be more things you want to mention as as we're looking at things. But I do see from the mod page that you actually have 3 different ways to get started on the quest.
That's right. That's right. So this is true for a couple of my other quest mods as well. I personally like the East Empire Company a lot, so I always try to find an avenue into a quest from the East Empire Company.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since there aren't really any mods for the East Empire Company other than like the province mods.
Yeah.
So I really kind of forced that one in there, and then the other 2 were more what I consider natural paths to get into the quest. So those were provided for the normal users. The East Empire Company was provided for myself, so that whenever I play it, I can take that route.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's your mod,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. You know, I tend to make these for me, so I wanted to make sure that my character had a reasonable way to get into it, because he's definitely not a member of House Telvanni and definitely not doing the main quest. So.
Wow, and you say that publicly? Do you know how many people will renounce you from the Morrowind modding community?
Hey, I'll be honest with you, Danae. I've only beat the main quest once, and that was like last year. And I've been playing this game since it came out, and I've never beaten the expansion quest lines. I've never even played the tribunal quest line. Period. I have no idea what it's about. I think I can count on one hand how many times I've even been to Mournhold. So it's pretty sad, to be honest.
A little bit. Like, I'm not as bad as you. I did do the main quest maybe twice in my whole life, and I've done Blood Moon once. That was 4 years ago, I think.
We'll say I've done a lot of the other quest lines though. So Thieves Guild, East Empire Company, Mages Guild. Some of I did House Halalu and Telvanni a long time ago. But I usually play quest mods instead. Tamriel Rebuild and some of that other kind of.
Don't you know House Redoran is the new cool?
I still am not really sure what House Redoran is about, even after our event. I had to do a lot of reading, and basically all I can see is that they're really boring and prideful, and they like to kill things. So I didn't really get much else from them than that.
Oh well, future playthrough. In the meanwhile, just to make sure, you can see my game, right?
I can.
All right, excellent. So I've picked, the path where we talk to the Biosphere, because because it was an easy one to get to.
Yeah, sure.
And so he does tell us about the researching rare artifacts and about Galerion mystiques. Alright. Well, we will take his mission, and we just know we need to go to Muden to get the tools from Galerion the Mystique.
Okay.
That's good. Anything about that dialogue you wanted to say?
Yeah, so one of the things that I attempted to accomplish with the dialogue was I wanted to match his vanilla dialogue style as much as I possibly could. So I wanted it to blend in with the vanilla dialogue as much as I could reasonably make it. So I actually had Melkor review the dialogue for me a couple times to help me with that, and I think I did a pretty good job with it, but anybody that disagrees or agrees, please feel free to let me know. That was one thing I really tried to adhere to in this mod, even if it's kind of a minor thing that may be unnoticed by most players.
Which, I mean, I think it might come down to the fact that when people see a mod by you, they expect gameplay, sexy Lua code, and they don't think that dialogue or quest or a house mod could be the main focus.
Yeah, I know. I think it's bitten me a few times, and I have a few other mods that I'm working on that are very unrelated to anything in terms of scripting or gameplay mechanics, and it always seems to mess me up in terms of people using them because they expect some big fancy script, and it's just a house mod.
Well, hang on. I mean, your astral pocket is not just a house mod. You teleport to it. It's a little more than just a house mod.
Well, you haven't heard about the new house mod that I'm working on. So, as part of Vampyr, I'm creating a vampire house. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, so I've kind of started doing some rough work with it, and basically I'm taking one of Heinrich's castles sets that he made and putting that into an underground cavern, and it has a very evil gothic feel to it. It's going to be pretty cool, but this will probably just be a house mod. I can't think of any special scripting or anything like that that'll go into it.
Okay, well, looking forward to seeing that. And by the way, I'm completely cheating. My character is OP. No one can see me. I can breathe forever. I absolutely feel too stressed to swim in underwater caves. Can't do it. Even now, I was panicking. I was like, where is the way? But we made it. So I have not really shown where it is on the map so that people who haven't played it can discover the location. That's part of the fun of it. But
yeah, okay.
It's a cool place. Like anytime there's a dungeon that is going to be a mixture of two elements, like plants and rocks, or Daedric ruin and water, I feel those are always very cool.
And I'll be honest, Danae, my choice to pick this dungeon was very, very arbitrary. So basically, I went down the list of Dwemer ruins on the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages and thought, which one of these do not have a lot of mods already? And this was the one that I ended up with. I think there's only one other mod that affects this ruin here, and it's a pretty old one. So that's how I ended up selecting this ruin. There wasn't anything better behind my selection process.
I mean, it is a very cool one. Did you change, by the way, I went into a circle, so never mind. Did you change anything to this part of the ruin, or is this still vanilla?
This is all vanilla, so one of my goals, and in general one of my goals when modding, is to be as compatible as possible with other mods, with whatever may be happening in the game, right? So you'll see this area right here that you're about to go into. This door did not exist in the original ruin. Instead, it was a caved-in door. So all I did was remove the cave-in part, put a door there, added a new cell. So that way it's fairly compatible unless somebody makes significant changes to the ruin. But all you're seeing now, this is all new, so this was all added by me.
So we're going to Shalunshan. How did
Yeah,
you come up with the name? Did you just put a bunch of letters, shuffle them, and go, yep, that will fit in Morrowind?
Basically, yes. Basically, yes. So I went down the list of existing caves or whatever you want to call this, and kind of got different suffixes and prefixes from the vanilla names, and like you said, shuffle them together and came up with that. So not very original, but creativity is not one of my strong suits, unfortunately.
But that really works. That really works. Slaughterfish, you cannot see me. So good. And I believe, is that a Descus Lanadia? Who's wearing pants and shoes, but you can't tell. If you take a skeleton race, then the clothing or the armor will actually show.
So one thing that I want to point out in here is this journal.
Mm-hmm.
So I would encourage anybody to actually read this journal. So for one thing, what I attempted to do here was to both explain what the tool is and how it works, as well as to provide some story to this cave. Because right now it's pretty bland, right? Like you walk in here, you see a skeleton, you see a journal, you see the soul extractor. So this journal attempts to add some background ambiance to let you know what's going on. So it actually is a little dark. So if you are sensitive to those things, maybe don't read it. But otherwise, I would encourage you to look at it because it is one of the main interesting points of the mod.
Yeah, right. I mean, it makes all the difference when you know you get little bits of lore, even if it's lore that you make up or you adapt, rather than, like you said, just plop an item. However, no matter how cool it looks, that's pretty cool.
Actually, one thing, while you're zoomed in, one thing I want to point out is if you move up just a little bit to look down the tube of the soul extractor,
I see.
you'll notice that the textures actually swirl inwards.
Wow. Is that where the souls come out of?
Sure.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
we can go with that, yeah.
It certainly looks cool. Did you make the model?
I did not. My modeling skills are horrible. I have to be handheld through anything in Blender or no scope. So I believe that this model is a combination of Red Fairy Demon, R0, and yeah, I believe it's just those two. They made it in combination.
Very cool. Though I'd like to point out that Merlord is learning Blender and is starting to make models. So pressure, okay?
I will say,
code is not enough.
Working on the Underground 2 has taught me a lot about modeling already, and Greatness 7 has been really helpful in teaching me a lot of tips and tricks. So I'm a lot more knowledgeable than I was 6 months ago, but still nowhere near some of the other people in our community.
Well, I mean, that's one of the great aspects of the community, is that a lot of people are willing to share not only their assets, but also their knowledge, which is very cool.
Yeah, especially the knowledge. It's hard to learn some of these things from Morrowind modding unless somebody tells it to you.
I'm gonna give myself a couple of rings, and I'm going for rings of various rarity and power. Let me see, for example, if I grabbed a lovely ring of Azura, that should net me a rather good soul. Hopefully. How does the success calculation work? Because my character is completely maxed out, so I'm pretty sure it's gonna work. But for anyone who doesn't have 100% with skills and attributes, how does it work? What are the odds of success?
Sure. So the odds of success are derived from the vanilla enchantment formula. So basically whatever the enchantment chance would be in like a vanilla enchantment, the chance of extracting it is a little bit worse than that. So it's harder to extract the souls than it is to actually enchant the item, but it's not significantly harder. They're pretty comparable. So you'll see, I think the Ring of Azura that you had, the enchantment was fairly powerful, so it had a lower enchantment rate or enchantment chance.
That actually failed. So for artifacts, you need to be more than an expert.
Yeah, you need to do some alchemy hacks to boost your enchantment skill.
Looks like it makes sense. Like, even if you're really good at making enchanted items, dealing with godly powers should not be that easy.
And I'll be honest, Danae, I actually had it significantly harder at first. So my idea was that this tool would be used very, very sparingly, and it would be very hard to disenchant things. So you would have a very low chance of actually being able to do this successfully. And my goal in doing that was to essentially make a trash can for enchanted items, because we stack up so many of these useless rings and amulets and swords and all this stuff, and I just wanted to have something decent to do with them other than throw them away. However, after making the mod and letting a few people test it, everybody complained that it was too hard, so I lowered the calculation a little bit to make it easier, and I think there's actually an option in the configuration menu now to where you can control that yourself, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so you can modify the chances there and make it easier or harder depending on what you want to do.
So soul extraction based chance and soul extraction chance percentage modifier. How does that work exactly?
Ooh, can you hover over them?
Yeah, sure. You did not revise properly for this showcase.
I did not review the formulas. No, I did not.
I mean, it's written there, so everybody can read.
Yeah. It's generally whenever there's a modifier in my mods for base chance, it's about what you would expect. So it adds a modifier to the final calculation of whatever you're doing. So in this case, if the normal calculation is a 50% chance of successfully unenchanting an item, that 10% there would be added to that, so it would be 60. If you bump that up to 100, you're always going to be successful no matter what. The percentage modifier, I don't recall, to be honest.
There's something for people to experiment with.
Yeah, it's something to discover.
Yay.
That's something that I always try to take into account whenever I'm making a mod, this kind or one of the other gameplay changes, is how does it impact the rest of the mechanics in the game. Unfortunately, my game knowledge is not the greatest, so usually I have to wait until somebody complains about it and tells me so that I can be aware of it and fix it. Like the Blight, for example, the mod we made during the recent competition. That has pretty far-reaching consequences to the things that it does, and so we will probably have to continue to tweak that and fine-tune it so that it's not overpowered or underpowered, and strike some kind of balance with the other mechanics in the game.
I mean, yeah, it does take playing the game quite a lot to be able to tweak it nicely. That is a lovely model.
My favorite thing is really the little swirl on the inside of the tube.
What about the fingers? I mean, that can't be by accident.
So, actually, R0 made that originally, so he made the base model, and I don't remember the reasoning behind having the hand there. I think the idea was that you would put your item there and do your disenchantment, but I don't recall what reason he chose that design for.
So you mentioned a house mod, and you mentioned Vampyr, and you mentioned the underground. Wanna tell us a little bit about all of that?
Okay, yeah. I can tell you a lot about all of that, so you cut me off when you don't want to hear anymore.
Okay.
So, as you know, I'm working on an overhaul to the vampire experience in Morrowind called Vampyr, which is based on the game Vampyr, loosely based. I would say more inspired by than anything. The main goal of this mod being to provide new mechanics for vampires, new AI, new interactions, and essentially to make them into a real thing. The vanilla vampire experience is pretty horrible in terms of the actual game mechanics. I mean, I like the tone of it and the NPCs and that kind of stuff, but the actual implementation of being a vampire is very not great.
Well, it's Vampire Embrace or nothing, really.
Right, and actually that's what I used to play with a long time ago. I would play with Vampiric Embrace, Hunger, and I think realism
Yeah.
was the other one. Yeah, I play with all three of those, and essentially what I'm trying to do with Vampyr is to take the best elements of all of those and to put them into a shiny Lua package. So, for example, getting rid of all of the crypts. The crypts, bad idea, in my opinion.
They didn't fit. They didn't fit.
Did not fit very well. So getting rid of that kind of stuff, keeping the good mechanics that actually made the mods enjoyable, and polishing them and making them work well together, as well as with the other mechanics of the game. So that's Vampyr. I've been working on it for a while, as you know. I'd say I'm a pretty good ways done.
Because ever since you started working on it, I was like, okay, I'm going to remove Vampire Embrace from my game because soon there's gonna be something so much better. 2 years later, I have not played a Vampire.
However, while I am working on Vampyr, as you know, I also started working on the Underground 2. So I recently played through the Underground 2. It was one of my favorite mods whenever I was younger. I liked a lot of just the different aspects of it, how cheesy it is, as well as the storyline and the main characters, all that kind of stuff. I always appreciated the comedy of it. So I'm attempting to update it to a more modern standard. So that does not mean I'm changing the story. So my intention is to leave the dialogue completely as is. I don't want to even touch the dialogue, but I'm going to go through the cells and the different locations and update them, update some of the graphic assets, that kind of stuff, to be more in line with what we have nowadays. So I've actually started doing that. Yeah, well,
now yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say another really important thing is optimization. So the Underground 2 is horribly optimized, as in not at all. Some of the assets in there will just blow your mind with how
I remember
bad they are.
Was on Melchior's Discord, you were looking at you were showing the models with the high poly and.
yes. So for example, one of the models, for anybody that's played the mod, eventually you come to this location where there are some gargoyles as decorations, and in this location there's dozens of them, like 30 or 40 of these models are on the screen at a given point in time. And I opened the model up in Blender and I realized that each of those gargoyles was over 40,000 vertices each.
Ouch.
Right? And to put that into perspective, I think most normal models are like in the range of hundreds of vertices to like thousands being a lot of vertices, and these were 40,000 each, and there was like 30 or 40 of them in one location at a given time that were on your screen at once. I have no idea how older computers ran this mod. I really don't. It's some of the stuff in there is terrifying. Additionally, I optimized the textures, so basically I ran the entire texture package through Ordinator. Yeah, and that removed about 600 megabytes from the package size.
Nice.
Which is a lot. You know, it was a 2 gigabyte file. Now it's like 1.4 ish after doing that. So I'm doing that kind of in parallel with Vampyr, and while doing all of that, I had the idea the other day of, wow, I'm going to be a vampire, I wouldn't know where to live. So I decided that I needed a vampire house mod, and I did not see anything good already out there. So I realized, okay, I got to do this myself.
That's typical modder's curse. Typical modder's curse. You make a mod and you go, ooh, it would go so well with that other mod, and go, oh, but I need, yeah.
So now,
yeah,
here I am making a vampire castle underground house mod, butchering together, like I mentioned earlier, some assets from Heinrich, some assets from G7, all this kind of different stuff, making this underground castle keep thing with like a very minor townish area around it, kind of like a port. And I guess I'm gonna have to do a quest for that too, right? I'm gonna have to put a quest around it and probably make some NPCs to go in there, and then I'm eventually gonna have to add some mechanics to interact with Vampyr. So
cool animations as well while you're at it.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll end up making some animations to throw in there. Some type of feeding animations for the castle inhabitants. They'll probably be vampires, so all that kind of stuff I still have to do.
Now I have a couple of questions for you. You, like, in the underground, you say you're not touching the story or the dialogues. So you are not going to try to make it more vanilla friendly or lore friendly. You're keeping the original story.
Yeah, so basically yes. Realistically, as I was playing through it the other day, the only thing that I found that was really not lore friendly is the name of one of the main characters, which is Mephistopheles. I considered removing that name and replacing it with a different name, but the rest of the story really isn't that out of range, right? I mean, it's not really related to any of the Morrowind lore, but it's not like it directly contradicts Morrowind lore. It's not like we're playing, Mobile Suit Gundam or anything like that. I mean, it still kind of fits into the environment.
What about the music? There were some like really modern tracks. I haven't played it in years.
Yeah. So actually, that is one thing that I'm changing, and a lot of people are giving me mixed feelings about that. But too bad, I don't care. I'm removing, I'm removing all of the vocalized music. So I think it does not fit Morrowind at all to have ambient music playing with lyrics. So I'm going to be replacing that with instrumental music of some kind. Not decided yet, but it's going to probably upset some veterans that have played the mod because the music of the Underground 2 is a little iconic. I get that, but too bad, right? They can make their own update if they want to.
Absolutely. Okay, well, lots of things to look forward to.
Yeah, certainly. Don't know when any of this will be released, but you can keep an eye on the Nexus, and maybe in a couple weeks, maybe in a couple years, sometime it'll go on there.
Who knows? 2090 is the deadline, as we all know. Anyway, I'll leave the link to the mod in the description. I'll also put a link to the Morrowind modding community Discord, because that's where a lot of the discussions about mods being developed is or are. Is there anything else you wanted to mention?
No. I think that was a pretty good discussion.
Yeah, I mean, we could go on forever, but I realize we're not showing anything of your mod right now, so we'll have to do that again with another mod maybe. I do have one last question for you, because again, people know you mostly for Magicka Expanded, so for gameplay mods. What is it you enjoy the most when you're modding?
I would say anything to do with magic. So not necessarily the coding aspect of that or the quest or anything in general, but anything to do with magic I like. So Magicka Expanded is an example of scripting for magic. Chrysopoeia, however you want to say that mod name, I don't know.
The one where you transmute gold.
Yes, the transmutation mod.
The first one, actually. That was before Magicka Expanded.
It was, yeah. So that one and the original Astral Pocket came out before Magicka Expanded did, and were not as cleanly made because of that. So, but they did have quests and stuff associated with them, which I also enjoyed making because they were related to magic. Most things that aren't related to magic, I don't really care about. As you can tell, pretty much every single mod I have relates to magic in some way or another.
And yet you tell me that House Telvanni is not your favorite.
Yeah, I don't know. I played through House Telvanni a long time ago. I played through Rise of House Telvanni and Yulvirus Legacy and all of that back when they came out forever ago, and I just haven't felt the need to do it since. No idea why.
Independent spellcaster, I see.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on Voice and talking about your mod. Let's do that again soon.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks for having me today.